North Korea is one of the most unique authoritarian regimes in the world. This country, ruled with an iron fist, imposes rigorous living conditions on its population, marked by constant surveillance, freedom restrictions, and terrible repression. Let's take as an example the women in the North Korean army. They face horrors that are hard to imagine. The testimonies are chilling. Recruited by force and subjected to extreme military discipline, they are victims of systematic sexual violence by their superiors. Furthermore, the conditions in which they live are deplorable. In fact, they are exposed to serious health risks due to lack of access to sanitary facilities and scarcity of feminine hygiene products. Food is insufficient and working days are exhausting. Even when pregnant, they are forced to perform heavy labor and, in some cases, are compelled to undergo abortions or abandon their children. In summary, these women, often silenced, endure an endless cycle of suffering and oppression. There are other grim realities in the lives of North Koreans, and that's what we're going to explore together. Stay with us until the end and get ready, because here are the most incredible things happening in North Korea. In history, there are many ruling families that captivate public interest, such as the Habsburgs, the Tudors, the Romanovs, and the Capets. If we go back even further in time, the Kim dynasty of North Korea has its place on that list. As you know, North Korea is not governed by elected officials, but by a family dynasty, where each member is destined to rule from birth. This makes this country an almost unique case in world politics. Although not a monarchy by definition, the power and government structure of North Korea more closely resemble a hereditary monarchy. There are no crowns, scepters, or royal titles, but the leadership of the Kim family is exercised with absolute and undeniable authority. It all began with Kim Il-sung, a historical figure who emerged victorious from Japanese occupation and founded a state in 1948. Under his leadership, North Korea became a political entity that more closely resembles a monarchy than a people's republic. Despite the official designation, Kim Il-sung was more than a head of state. He was a kind of demigod in the eyes of the population, an almost mythical entity surrounded by a cult of personality based on the country's official ideology, which preaches the absolute power of the sovereign. Even after his death in 1994, Kim Il-sung is officially designated as the Furthermore, his figure is omnipresent throughout the country, with over 34,000 statues and portraits depicting him. The regime even created a myth surrounding his birth, claiming it was foretold by a fisherman and that a rainbow appeared at the moment of his birth. As incredible as it may seem, people believe in this. What sets the Kim dynasty apart is its longevity. Official accounts of the skills and achievements of the Kim dynasty members often defy credibility. Kim Jong-il, son of Kim Il-sung, succeeds him and inherits both the power and the legendary aura of his father. Similarly, state propaganda attributes him superhuman merit. Allegedly, he wrote 1,500 books during his university years and produced 6 operas in 2 years, considered masterpieces. As you may have noticed, the regime wildly exaggerates the merit of the rulers to bolster its control over the people and maintain an image of infallibility. Kim Jong-un, whom we all know, represents the 3rd generation and surprised with his rapid rise to power. Married to Rasolju, father of Kim Jae, Kim Jong-un controls the country with an iron fist. Despite the economic challenges and current international tensions facing North Korea, he has never been so revered by the people. In North Korea, there is a common object that has acquired extraordinary symbolism and meaning: the calendar. But it's not just any calendar, it's the Jewish calendar, specific to the country and used since 1997. Years are numbered according to the birth date of the state's founder, Kim Il-sung. Formerly, every December, the government would gift each household with this unique calendar. However, times have changed, and due to inflation, families now need to buy them. However, these calendars are expensive, and not everyone can afford them. As a result, they have become signs of social status, comfort, and dedication to power. The most prestigious versions, printed in Pyongyang, cost a fortune, while local versions, more accessible but of inferior quality, are within reach of a considerable number of citizens. However, for many, even these modest options are hard to obtain. In summary, calendars have become a clear marker between the rich and the poor. The COVID-19 pandemic has exacerbated this situation, with border closures and interruptions in exchanges with China. The materials needed to make calendars, paper and ink, have become scarce. Worse still, with the country's difficult economic situation, compounded by food shortages, this small object has become a luxury for most. It is now clandestinely traded at exorbitant prices. If North Korea is such a fascinating country, it is primarily due to its isolation. In this territory, every aspect of life is controlled by a dictatorial government, where information is carefully filtered, and access to the outside world is almost entirely blocked. Often described as the last bastion of totalitarian communism, it's no wonder that travel is heavily restricted both within and outside the country. In fact, North Koreans are frequently prevented from traveling abroad, and sometimes even internal movements require special permissions. Education, obviously, also serves as a means of control. From an early age, children are taught to idolize their leaders as almost divine figures. This early indoctrination is what keeps the country free from any dissent. However, any minimal opposition is met by the government with ruthless repression and a true strategy of terror. In fact, it employs extreme measures, including forced labor camps, to punish those who threaten the regime's stability. Entire families can be punished for the actions of a single member. North Korea applies punitive measures of an unusual severity. For example, the country employs the death penalty for a wide range of offenses, from serious crimes like murder to actions that in many other societies would be considered exercises of fundamental freedom. For instance, in North Korea, the simple act of consuming media not approved by the state or expressing divergent religious beliefs can result in the death penalty. And yes, the regime's tolerance towards any form of foreign influence is nearly non-existent. Public executions, although difficult to confirm due to government secrecy, are reported by defectors. For example, they report that a factory director was executed for making international calls. They also report on the execution of people who attempted to cross the border or who distributed leaflets of dissident propaganda. But why these executions for so little? Well, the authorities' objective is to instill fear and reinforce the population's loyalty to the regime. Of course, the excessive nature of these punishments has elicited reactions from the international community, accused of not caring about human rights. North Korea rejects these accusations and considers them attempts to discredit the country's sovereignty. North Korea aims to be unique at every level, including in technology. To avoid the use of Windows, they developed their own operating system, Red Star 3.0. It was designed to resemble Apple's macOS, but with features specific to the country. The existence of Red Star 3.0 was revealed to the outside world when a former Google employee, Will Scott, visited Pyongyang University of Science and Technology. He managed to purchase a copy of the system and thus provide insight into the country's digital life. And it was possible to learn that Red Star 3.0 had some peculiarities. For example, it was not possible to choose all time zones. Seoul's is completely absent. The text processor and file manager are designed to resemble Apple's Finder. As for the web browser, it's called Ninara and is based on Mozilla Firefox, although it has been heavily modified. And yes, when rejecting Western innovations, it's necessary to know how to be self-reliant. In the digital realm, North Korea performs quite well. In North Korea, there is no internet, at least not as we know it. Instead, there's Myong, a national intranet that offers citizens a highly restricted version of the web. The content of this intranet is carefully monitored and is mainly dedicated to education and propaganda. In North Korea, there is no internet, at least not as we know it. Instead, there is Myong, a national intranet that offers citizens a highly restricted version of the web. The content of this intranet is carefully monitored and is primarily dedicated to education and propaganda. For example, every mention of leaders like Kim Jong-il, Kim Il-sung, or Kim Jong-un is amplified with a 20% larger font size. That's the rule. Only a small elite group of scientists and students have access to real global internet, facilitating learning and advancement in key areas for the state. But for the average citizen, it's a distant dream. However, despite these restrictions, the influence of the outside world seems to find a way. South Korean dramas and information on USB drives discreetly cross borders. Some North Koreans near the Chinese border even allow themselves to use foreign Wi-Fi networks. However, North Korea remains a place where access to information is a rare privilege. And what about the arts? North Korea cultivates them, but that's not surprising. Artistic representations are intended to consolidate the cult of the dynastic family. Tens of thousands of statues are scattered throughout the country in honor of one man, Kim Il-sung, the founder of the state. If you walk the streets, you'll discover an urban landscape dominated by imposing representations of these leaders. They are not just urban ornaments, but also drive the economy, as some socialist artworks are exported abroad. Recently, the regime took a surprising measure. It banned foreigners from visiting these monuments. No official reason was given, but according to rumors, the regime particularly fears acts of vandalism. In North Korea, damaging a statue is perceived not only as a supreme insult but also as a capital crime. During the COVID-19 pandemic, North Korea faced many difficulties. Imports were scarce, and the country suffered from a severe shortage of manure and other essential resources. During this critical period, the government demanded collective efforts from the population to produce a significant amount of natural fertilizers. Each household had to provide 200 kilograms, and each company employee 500 kilograms. North Koreans had to convert their own waste into compost, even urine was used. Additionally, each farmer was required to provide at least 2 liters for the manufacture of this fertilizer. But did the citizens respect the quotas demanded by the government, that is 200 kilograms per household? Well, yes, actually, they didn't have many options, as the authorities introduced a system of free passes, from which only citizens who provided a sufficient amount of manure benefited. Only through this were they allowed to attend markets. The others, on the other hand, saw their mobility reduced. And yes, when the North Korean government imposes a rule, it is rigorously respected.
You are our major sponsor. This video required many hours of work, love, and dedication to be completed. Therefore, your participation is what keeps us inspired to grow even more and reach a larger audience with this valuable content. Subscribe to our channel, like, and share this video with others, as this is how YouTube will understand that you enjoyed this content and will present it to more people. Now, if you want to watch content as good as this, click on the video that's appearing on your screen. Thank you for watching, and until next time.